My beloved child, come closer, sit with me for a moment. There are things you have carried for too long, and before we speak of the road ahead, we must honor the road you have already walked. I know you are tired, not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, but the kind that settles deep in the soul, the tiredness that comes from giving and giving, from standing when it would have been easier to collapse, from choosing goodness in a world that often rewards the opposite. I know the weight you have borne in silence, the strength you have had to summon when no one was watching, the questions you swallowed because you did not want to appear weak. You have wondered, more than once, if anyone truly sees you. You looked around and saw people applauded for things you never received recognition for. You watched others advance while you remained where you were, faithful, steady, unseen. You questioned whether your kindness mattered, whether your patience was foolish, whether your integrity was costing you more than it was worth. And in those moments, my child, you felt alone. But listen to me now. You were never unseen. I saw you when you chose restraint instead of retaliation. I saw you when you held your tongue while your heart screamed to defend itself. I saw you when you walked away not because you were wrong, but because peace mattered more to you than being right. Every moment you thought passed unnoticed was recorded in my heart. The world measures value by noise, by applause, by numbers, by visible success, but I measure by faithfulness. I measure by endurance. I measure by what a soul chooses when no one is watching and when the reward is uncertain. And by that measure, you have not failed. There were days when you gave love and received coldness in return. Days when you offered sincerity and were met with suspicion. Days when your good intentions were misunderstood, misused, even mocked. I watched as your heart learned what disappointment feels like. Not once, but again and again, each time. You told yourself you would harden, you would stop caring, you would protect yourself by becoming less. But you didn't. Even when your heart cracked, you chose not to become cruel. Even when bitterness knocked at your door, you refused to let it stay. You kept choosing love, not because it was easy, but because something deep within you knew it was right. That quiet strength, my child, is not weakness. It is evidence of who you truly are. I know there were nights you lay awake replaying conversations in your mind, wondering what you could have said differently, wondering if you were too much or not enough, wondering why honesty seemed to cost you more than deception costs others. You questioned your worth in the silence, measuring yourself by the responses of people who could not see your heart. I was there in those nights, when your thoughts raced and sleep would not come. My presence was closer than your breath. When tears slipped down your face in the dark, I counted every one. Not a single tear was wasted. Not one moment of pain was meaningless. Each cry rose from your heart and echoed into eternity. You did not imagine my nearness. You did not endure alone. There is a kind of pain that comes not from being openly attacked, but from being quietly overlooked. You know this pain well. You showed up. You stayed loyal. You gave your best. And still, you felt invisible. Still, you felt as though your efforts disappeared into nothingness. That pain cuts deeply because it touches the question every soul asks, do I matter? Hear me clearly, my beloved child. You matter to me beyond measure. Long before anyone else noticed you, I knew you. Long before your actions were judged, I understood your intentions. Long before you learned how to stand strong, I was already holding you. I am not a distant observer in your life. I am a father who walks beside you, who carries you when you cannot carry yourself. You have been stronger than you realize. Strength is not always loud. Often, it looks like perseverance when quitting would have been understandable. It looks like kindness that remains intact after betrayal. It looks like hope that flickers but refuses to go out. You have embodied this kind of strength, even when you felt fragile. There were moments you felt broken, scattered, unsure of who you were becoming. You feared that the pain was changing you, that the disappointments were carving something hard and unfamiliar into your soul. But what you could not see then is what I see now. You were being refined, not ruined. Fire does not destroy gold. It reveals it. Every test you faced had a purpose beyond your understanding at the time. Not to punish you, not to diminish you, but to shape you into someone who could carry greater depth, greater compassion, greater wisdom. The sensitivity you have now is not a flaw. It is the result of a heart that has been shaped by experience and preserved by grace. I know you questioned me. You wondered why I allowed certain doors to close, why I did not intervene sooner, why justice seemed delayed, why those who hurt you appeared to move forward without consequence. You did not always understand my silence, and at times you mistook it for absence. But my silence was not neglect. It was preparation. I was teaching you discernment. I was strengthening your inner life. I was building roots deep enough to sustain what is coming. Some lessons cannot be learned in comfort. Some truths cannot be understood without walking through uncertainty. And through it all, I never turned away from you. My love for you is not fragile like human affection. It does not withdraw when questioned. It does not diminish when you struggle. It does not depend on performance. I am not disappointed in you for feeling tired. I am not offended by your doubts. I am not distant when you feel weak. I am your father. I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your name is not an afterthought. Your story is not an accident. There is nothing you could do that would make me stop loving you. And nothing you have failed at that has disqualified you from my care. You have felt, at times, as though your goodness placed you at a disadvantage, as though doing the right thing cost you opportunities others seemed to gain through compromise. You wondered if integrity was worth the loneliness it sometimes brings. Let me tell you something the world will not. Integrity always costs something in the short term, but it pays in ways the world cannot replicate. What you have preserved inside you is far more valuable than anything you think you have lost. Character cannot be stolen. A pure heart cannot be replaced. And peace that comes from living truthfully cannot be manufactured. You have been building something invisible, but eternal. There were seasons when you sowed with tears, when every step forward felt heavy, when progress was slow and joy seemed distant. You questioned whether the harvest would ever come. whether the effort would ever be worth it. It will. The season of weeping is not permanent. It never was. Even now, things are shifting beneath the surface. What felt stagnant was never still. What felt forgotten was never abandoned. I have been arranging details you could not see, aligning paths you did not know existed. I see the desires of your heart, even the ones you have been afraid to speak aloud. I know the dreams you buried because disappointment taught you to lower your expectations. I know the prayers you stopped praying because waiting became painful. Nothing placed in your heart by me has died. I am not bound by time the way you are. What feels delayed to you is not denied to me. My timing is not meant to frustrate you, but to protect you. I know what you need before you ask. I know when you are ready, even when you feel unsure. Lift your eyes, my child. Do not let the weight of what you have endured convince you that this is all there is. Do not allow exhaustion to rewrite your identity. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are exactly where you need to be for what comes next. When you feel weak, lean into me. I will carry you. When you feel lost, listen for my voice. I will guide you. When you feel unworthy, remember that my grace does not measure you the way people do. I have clothed you in righteousness. I have called you by name. You are mine. There is no condemnation hanging over your life, no hidden debt you owe me, no test you are about to fail. You are covered, held, and protected. Walk in the freedom I have given you. Let go of shame. Release the guilt you were never meant to carry. Lay down the fear that whispers you are not enough. You are enough because I say you are. You are a light, even when you feel small. The kindness you show, the quiet prayers you whisper, the compassion you extend when no one thanks you, these things matter more than you know. They ripple outward in ways you cannot trace, touching lives you may never meet. I am for you. I have always been. No opposition you face has more authority than my presence in your life. No storm you encounter is outside my control. Trust me when the winds rise. Trust me when clarity feels distant. I am the master of the storm, and peace is never beyond my reach. This journey has been long, and I know there were moments you wanted to stop, but you didn't, and because you didn't, because you stayed, because you endured, you are stronger than you realize and closer than you think. This is not the end of your story. This is not even the best part. Rest here for a moment, my beloved child. Breathe. You are safe with me. And when you are ready, we will continue, my beloved child. Before we go further, there is something your heart needs to hear, something you have felt deeply but never fully understood. Loving others has cost you more than you expected. You did not enter relationships looking to take. You did not step into friendships or commitments with hidden motives. You came offering sincerity, loyalty, patience, and truth. You believed that if you treated people well, they would respond with the same care. You believed love would be met with love, honesty with honesty, faithfulness with faithfulness. But that is not always how this world works. There were moments when you gave your best and received indifference, moments when your openness was met with guarded hearts. Moments when your generosity was mistaken for weakness. Your kindness misread as permission to take more than was ever given back. And with each experience, something inside you learned a painful lesson. Love does not guarantee protection from hurt. I saw the confusion in your eyes when affection was returned with distance. I saw the way your heart searched for reasons, trying to understand what you did wrong. You replayed conversations, examined your words, questioned your intentions, wondering if loving less would have spared you the pain. But hear me clearly, my child. The pain did not come because you loved wrongly. It came because you loved in a world where many do not know how. There are hearts that have not been healed. There are souls driven by fear, pride, insecurity, and selfish desire. These hearts do not know how to receive love without trying to control it. Use it, or flee from it. When they encounter purity, it exposes what they are unwilling to face within themselves. And so they reject what they do not understand. You were never too much. You were simply more than they were ready for. I know there were times when people entered your life wearing smiles, speaking gentle words, promising loyalty. At first, they seemed safe, familiar, warm. You trusted them because you believed in sincerity.
You assumed their intentions matched their words because your own heart was honest. But slowly, the truth revealed itself. You noticed how they took more than they gave. How conversations always returned to their needs. How your presence mattered only when it served them. How your pain was minimized while theirs was magnified. You felt drained, confused, and guilty for even noticing the imbalance. And still, you stayed longer than you should have. Not because you were weak, but because you hoped love would heal what selfishness refused to acknowledge. You believed patience might soften them. You believed understanding could bridge the gap. You believed that if you just tried harder, things would change. My child, I watched you exhaust yourself trying to save relationships that were never meant to be sustained by your effort alone. Love is meant to be shared, not extracted. Connection is meant to nourish, not deplete. There were moments when your boundaries were crossed and your silence was taken as consent. Moments when your forgiveness became an excuse for others to continue harming you. Moments when you felt unseen even while standing right in front of them. That kind of rejection wounds deeply because it is subtle. It does not always come with cruelty or anger. Sometimes it comes wrapped in indifference. Sometimes it comes disguised as familiarity. Sometimes it arrives in the form of being needed but never truly known. I know how that made you feel invisible. You wondered if your presence mattered at all. If anyone would notice if you stopped showing up. If your absence would even be felt. And those thoughts weighed heavily on your spirit, eroding confidence, shaking trust, making you question whether love was worth the risk. But listen to me now. The rejection you experienced was not a reflection of your value. It was a revelation of their limitations. Some people do not reject you because you lack worth. They reject you because accepting you would require them to change. Your integrity confronts their compromise. Your depth unsettles their shallowness. Your sincerity exposes their pretense. And rather than grow, they retreat. You must understand this, my beloved child, or you will carry unnecessary guilt. You are not responsible for the hearts of others. You were not created to fix what they refuse to heal. You were not called to diminish yourself to make them comfortable. I did not give you a tender heart so it could be abused. I gave it to bring light where darkness has settled. Still, I know the rejection hurt. It hurt when people misunderstood your intentions. It hurt when they questioned your motives. It hurt when your honesty was twisted into something it was never meant to be. It hurt when your loyalty went unrecognized and your sacrifices went unacknowledged. And the hardest part was this: you loved them anyway. You did not stop caring just because they failed you. You did not become cruel in response to their coldness. Even when resentment whispered that it would protect you, you chose compassion instead. Even when bitterness promised relief, you refused to let it take root. That choice did not come without cost. There were days when you felt foolish for still caring. Days when you wondered if kindness was a mistake. Days when you told yourself you would build walls so thick that no one could hurt you again. But deep down, you knew walls would also keep out what you longed for most.
Genuine connection, truth, and love that did not require you to shrink. I want you to hear something important. You are not called to love recklessly, but you are called to love truthfully. There is a difference. Loving truthfully does not mean tolerating disrespect. It does not mean ignoring manipulation. It does not mean sacrificing your well-being for the comfort of others. Love that destroys you is not love I ask of you. Even my love has boundaries. I discipline, I correct, I withdraw access when hearts persist in harm. And you, my child, must learn to do the same, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom, not to punish, but to protect the life I placed within you. You see, rejection teaches discernment if you allow it to. It teaches you who values depth and who only seeks convenience. It teaches you who listens and who only waits to speak. It teaches you who honors your presence and who only uses it. These lessons are painful, but they are not wasted. I was not absent when you were rejected. I was guiding you away from what could not sustain you. There were relationships I allowed to fade because they would have required you to betray yourself to maintain them. There were connections I permitted to break because they were anchored in imbalance. Not mutual respect. You thought you were losing something precious, but I was protecting something sacred. Your heart. I know you questioned why I did not intervene sooner, why I allowed the hurt to go on as long as it did, why I did not stop them before the damage was done. My child, some lessons cannot be taught from a distance. Some truths must be experienced to be understood. Had I removed you too early, you would have blamed yourself forever. Had I shielded you completely, you would have doubted your own discernment. Now, you see more clearly. You recognize buttons you once ignored. You notice energy that drains rather than restores. You feel discomfort sooner, and you no longer silence it as easily. That awareness is not hardness, it is maturity. Do not confuse wisdom with bitterness. You can guard your heart without closing it. You can love deeply without abandoning yourself. You can forgive without granting continued access. These truths will free you if you let them. Rejection does not mean you are unlovable. It means you are being redirected. There are people who will meet you with the same depth you offer. People who will not compete with you, use you, or drain you. People who will recognize your value without needing to be convinced. They exist, my child, even if you have not met them yet. Do not let the failures of others convince you to lower your standards. Do not let repeated disappointment teach you to expect less than what you deserve. The right connections will not require you to betray your nature. Until then, remain anchored in me. When rejection tempts you to withdraw completely, come to me. When disappointment whispers that love is dangerous, bring that fear to me. I am not asking you to expose yourself to harm. I am asking you not to let harm define you. Your story is not one of loss. It is one of refinement. Each rejection has been clearing space. Each misunderstanding has been sharpening your discernment. Each disappointment has been strengthening your reliance on me rather than on the validation of others. And there is peace in that. Rest here for a moment, my beloved child. Let the wounds breathe. Let the lessons settle. You do not need to rush into the next connection. You do not need to prove your worth to anyone. You do not need to change who you are to be accepted. I accept you fully. And when you are ready, we will speak of the fire, the one that did not destroy you, but shaped you into something stronger than before. My beloved child, there are things you would never have learned about yourself without the fire. I know you wish some seasons had never happened. I know there are memories you would erase if you could, moments of loss, betrayal, disappointment, silence. You sometimes look back and wonder why your path required so much endurance while others seemed to walk effortlessly forward. And in your quiet moments, you have asked me the question you were afraid to say out loud. Why did it have to be so hard? The fire you walked through was not punishment. It was not evidence of abandonment. It was not proof that you had failed. It was refinement. There is a difference between destruction and transformation, but when you are standing in the flames, the two can feel the same. Pain does not announce its purpose. It simply burns, and while it burns, it strips away illusions, exposes weaknesses, and forces the soul to confront what can no longer be carried forward. You entered that fire carrying expectations of people, of outcomes, of fairness. You carried beliefs about how life should unfold if you did everything right. You believed that effort would always be met with reward, that honesty would always be respected, that loyalty would guarantee security. The fire challenged those beliefs, not to leave you cynical, but to leave you grounded. I watched as the flames revealed what was fragile and what was true. I watched false assurances fall away. I watched dependencies break. I watched you lose things you thought you needed and discover strength you did not know you had. You feared the fire would consume you. Instead, it exposed what could not be burned. There were moments when you felt overwhelmed, when pressure closed in from all sides. You felt stretched beyond capacity, forced to make decisions without clarity, forced to endure without answers. You prayed for relief, for resolution, for escape. Sometimes, the relief did not come when you expected it. Not because I was distant, but because I was doing a deeper work. Some growth requires endurance. Some wisdom is born only through waiting. Some clarity arrives only after confusion has done its work. I was not interested in removing you from the fire prematurely. I was interested in ensuring you emerged stronger, wiser, and more anchored than before. Fire reveals truth. It reveals who you are when comfort is removed. It reveals where your trust truly rests. It reveals what you rely on when familiar supports collapse. In those moments, you discovered that things you thought were stable could disappear overnight. People you trusted could change. Circumstances you depended on could shift. And yet, you remained. Not untouched, not unscared, but still standing. You learned that resilience is not loud. It is quiet persistence. It is waking up on days you wanted to stay down. It is continuing when motivation has faded. It is choosing faith when evidence is scarce. There were days when your strength came not from confidence, but from refusal to quit, and that was enough. I know there were moments when you felt stripped bare, when the fire removed distractions, comforts, and false securities, leaving you face to face with yourself. That confrontation was uncomfortable. It forced you to acknowledge fears you had ignored, wounds you had buried, and patterns that no longer served you. But my child, awareness is the beginning of healing. I was not exposing your weaknesses to shame you. I was revealing them so they could be healed. I was showing you where you needed growth, not to condemn you, but to prepare you for what comes next. Gold does not fear fire. Only impurities do. And so the fire burned away what could not accompany you forward. People who were attached to who you used to be. Habits that limited your growth. Expectations that no longer aligned with your purpose. What remained was real. Your compassion did not disappear. Your integrity did not dissolve. Your desire for truth did not fade. In fact, they grew stronger. You discovered that pain does not always harden the heart. Sometimes, it deepens it. You became more aware of suffering, not only your own, but that of others. You learned empathy not from theory, but from experience. You learned how fragile people can be, how fear shapes behavior, how hurt people hurt others. This knowledge did not make you superior. It made you humble. Humility is one of the greatest fruits of the fire. It teaches you that strength and vulnerability can coexist. It teaches you that wisdom does not come from having all the answers, but from knowing which questions matter. It teaches you to listen more deeply, to yourself, to others, and to me. I know there were moments when you questioned your faith, when prayers felt unanswered, when silence felt heavy, when you wondered if trusting me was worth the cost. Those doubts did not offend me. They revealed your honesty, and honesty is something I can work with. I do not require blind certainty. I desire sincere hearts. Faith that has never been tested remains fragile. Faith that has walked through fire emerges resilient. You no longer believe because it is comfortable. You believe because you have survived without losing yourself. That is real faith. You feared that the fire would change you into someone cold, distant, unrecognizable, but instead, it clarified you. It taught you boundaries without bitterness, strength without cruelty, discernment without judgment. You learned when to speak and when silence protects peace. You learned when to stay and when leaving is wisdom. You learned that not every battle deserves your energy. These lessons were costly, but they were necessary. I know there were moments when you envied those who seemed untouched by struggle, those who moved forward effortlessly, unburdened by introspection or pain. But what you could not see then is what I see now. Depth is expensive, and not everyone is willing to pay the price. You paid it, and because you did, you now carry weight. Not heaviness, but substance. Your words carry meaning. Your presence carries calm. Your silence carries understanding. You have become someone who does not need to prove strength because it is evident in how you endure. Fire does not make you fearless. It teaches you courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. You moved forward even when outcomes were uncertain, even when hope felt fragile, even when exhaustion whispered that it would be easier to stop caring. And still, you chose to care. That choice matters. There is a tenderness in you that survived the flames. A gentleness that remains intact despite disappointment. That is not accidental. That is evidence of protection. I guarded your heart even as it was tested. I did not allow the fire to consume what was essential. You are still you, but refined. Stronger without being hardened. Wiser without being cynical. Aware without being afraid. You may not see it fully yet, but others will. They will feel safety in your presence. They will sense authenticity in your words. They will trust you because you understand pain without being ruled by it. And when the time comes, you will be able to guide others through their own fires, not from theory, but from lived truth. My beloved child, do not regret the fire. It prepared you for a depth of life that comfort never could. It stripped away illusions so you could stand firmly in truth. It revealed your resilience, your faith, your capacity to endure without losing love. You were never meant to be destroyed. You were meant to be refined. Rest here for a moment. Let the heat fade. Let the strength remain. My beloved child, there is a place you remember not by sight, but by feeling. It was not marked on any map. No one announced its arrival. Yet one day, you realized you were there. The valley. It was the season when strength no longer felt heroic, when endurance felt heavy, when even breathing seemed to require effort. You did not fall into the valley suddenly. You descended slowly, step by step, through disappointment, unanswered questions, and weariness that crept in quietly. And once you were there, everything sounded different. Laughter felt distant, hope felt muted, even my promises felt harder to hold. You still believed, but belief no longer felt effortless. It required intention. It required choosing faith when emotion offered none. You told yourself you were just tired. You told yourself it would pass quickly. But nights grew longer, and the silence grew louder. In the valley, you learned what loneliness truly is. Not the absence of people, but the absence of feeling understood. You were surrounded at times by voices, by noise, by obligations, yet you felt unseen. You spoke, but your words felt thin. You reached out, but your hands came back empty. You wondered if anyone noticed the weight you carried. I noticed. I was there in the moments when your knees buckled, not enough for you to collapse completely, but enough for you to feel how close you were to the edge. I was there when you whispered prayers without eloquence, prayers made of sighs, tears, and questions rather than words. I was there when you stopped asking why out loud because the question itself felt exhausting. The valley does something the mountain never does. On the mountain, you feel capable. In the valley, you feel honest. You no longer had the energy to pretend you were fine. You no longer had the strength to impress. What remained was truth, raw, unfiltered, vulnerable, and in that vulnerability, you feared I would pull away. But I drew closer. When your faith felt fragile, I did not demand certainty. When your joy faded, I did not accuse you of ingratitude. When you questioned my nearness, I did not withdraw. I stayed. There were nights you lay awake, staring into the darkness, replaying your life like a story that had lost its direction. You wondered how you ended up there after all your effort, all your faithfulness, all your restraint. You asked yourself if you had missed something, if you had misunderstood my voice, if you had trusted the wrong people for too long. Those questions were heavy, and yet, in those nights, when sleep would not come and the silence pressed in, my presence wrapped around you like a quiet blanket. You did not always feel me, but I was there, holding your thoughts when they spiraled, calming your heart when anxiety rose, guarding you when despair tried to convince you that this valley was permanent. The valley is where illusions die. You realized you could no longer rely on applause, validation, or external reassurance. Those things do not survive the valley. What survives is only what is real, what is rooted deeply enough to endure without reinforcement. And you endured, not because you felt strong, but because you refused to surrender to hopelessness. You woke up even when mornings felt heavy. You showed up even when motivation was gone. You kept going, not with confidence, but with commitment. That is faith in its purest form. Faith that walks without sight. Faith that trusts without reassurance. Faith that stays even when answers are delayed. I know you felt forgotten at times. You watched others move forward while you remained still. You saw doors open for people who seemed less prepared, less careful, less faithful. You wondered why your obedience felt unrewarded, why your patience seemed unnoticed. And in that wondering, doubt crept in quietly. But hear me now, my beloved child. Stillness is not stagnation. Waiting is not wasted time. The valley is not abandonment. It is preparation. Roots grow deepest in the dark. While you felt unseen, I was strengthening your inner life. While you felt delayed, I was aligning your future. While you felt forgotten, I was teaching you to listen to yourself, to your spirit, and to my voice without distraction. The valley stripped away noise so you could hear truth. You learned to recognize the difference between my voice and your fears. You learned that not every thought deserves your attention. You learned that peace does not come from control, but from surrender. These lessons could not have been taught on the mountain. I know there were moments when you felt close to breaking, when emotions surged unexpectedly, when tears came without warning, when the smallest disappointment felt overwhelming. You wondered if something was wrong with you, why you felt so deeply, why everything felt so intense. Nothing was wrong with you. You were healing. Healing is not quiet. It is not neat. It often feels like falling apart before things come back together. Old wounds resurfaced because they were finally safe to be addressed. Pain you had buried rose because it could no longer remain hidden. And I did not rush the process. I do not hurry healing. I honor it. I carried you when you could not walk. There were days you thought you were moving forward on your own strength, but it was my hand beneath you. You did not see it, but you felt it in moments of unexpected calm, in sudden clarity, in the quiet decision not to give up. You thought you were surviving alone. You were being carried. The valley also taught you compassion for yourself. You stopped demanding perfection. You learned to rest without guilt. You learned to forgive yourself for what you did not know then. You learned that strength does not mean never struggling. It means continuing despite struggle. This compassion softened you without weakening you. You emerged from the valley with eyes that see more clearly, a heart that listens more carefully, and a spirit that no longer chases approval. You learned to find security not in circumstances, but in me, and that security cannot be shaken. My beloved child, do not fear valleys. They are not detours. They are not mistakes. They are passages. You did not get lost there. You were led through. And even now, as you step forward, traces of the valley remain, not as wounds, but as wisdom. You will recognize others walking through similar darkness. You will know how to speak gently, how to listen patiently, how to love without trying to fix. Because you have been there. Rest here for a moment longer. Let the echoes fade. Let the strength settle. When you are ready, we will speak of guarding your heart, of learning how to live in a world that does not always honor tenderness, without losing the purity I placed within you. My beloved child, now that you have walked through the valley and felt how deeply the world can wound, there is something you must learn, not to harden you, but to preserve you. Tenderness without wisdom is easily exploited. Wisdom without tenderness becomes cold. I did not refine your heart so it could be broken again in the same way. I did not heal you so you would return to what nearly destroyed you. There is a difference between loving freely and leaving yourself unguarded, and it is time you understand that difference. You live in a world where not every smile is sincere. Not every word spoken is rooted in truth. Not every connection is meant to be kept. Some people will come into your life not to walk with you, but to take from you. They will recognize your empathy before they recognize your boundaries. They will sense your compassion and mistake it for availability. They will test how much they can receive without giving, how much they can demand without offering respect. This is not because you invited harm. It is because light attracts attention. You must not be surprised by this. I warned you that not every heart seeks truth. Some seek advantage, some seek control, some seek validation, power, or escape from their own emptiness. And when such hearts encounter someone who listens deeply, gives freely, and loves sincerely, they may try to attach themselves, not to love you, but to use what you offer. I have seen this happen to you. You noticed how certain people were present only when they needed something. How conversations revolved around their struggles, their fears, their desires, while yours were dismissed or overlooked. How your generosity was assumed rather than appreciated. How your silence was interpreted as agreement, and your patience as permission. And still, you hesitated to step back, because you feared becoming cold, because you feared disappointing others, because you feared that protecting yourself might mean betraying who you are. My child, listen carefully. Guarding your heart is not betrayal of love. It is stewardship of what I entrusted to you. Your heart is not an endless resource meant to be drained without care. It is sacred ground. It carries my image. It holds the capacity to heal, to nurture, to create life where despair has settled. And anything sacred must be protected. Even I set boundaries. I do not force myself where I am not welcomed. I do not reveal everything to those who mock truth. I do not grant access to hearts that persist in harm. My love is infinite, but my access is intentional. And so must yours be. There is wisdom in learning when to speak and when to remain silent. Wisdom in recognizing patterns instead of excusing them. Wisdom in understanding that repeated harm is not misunderstanding, it is information. You are allowed to learn from it. I know you once believed that love meant endurance without limit, that forgiveness required forgetting, that compassion demanded constant availability. These beliefs came from a good place, but they were incomplete. Love without truth becomes self-abandonment. Forgiveness without boundaries invites repetition. Compassion without discernment leads to exhaustion. I am not calling you to abandon love. I am teaching you how to preserve it. You can love someone and still step away. You can forgive someone and still limit access. You can wish someone well and still refuse to carry their chaos. This does not make you cruel. It makes you wise. There will be moments when people accuse you of changing. They will say you are distant, guarded, different. They may even suggest that your growth has made you arrogant or unkind. Do not let this trouble you. Often, when people lose access to you, they mistake it for loss of love. In truth, they have lost control, convenience, or comfort, not connection. Your peace will unsettle those who benefited from your unrest. Let them misunderstand. You are not responsible for maintaining bonds that damage your spirit. You are responsible for remaining aligned with the truth I placed within you. Anyone who requires you to betray that truth to stay connected is not meant to walk with you into your next season. I know this is difficult for you. Your heart longs for harmony. You dislike conflict. You prefer to adjust yourself rather than disappoint others. But there comes a time when continuing to adjust means shrinking, and I did not create you to live small. Strength is learning to say no without guilt. Peace is learning to walk away without anger. Maturity is learning that not everyone deserves the same level of access. Your discernment has grown for a reason. You feel unease sooner now. You sense imbalance more quickly. You recognize emotional manipulation where you once saw only need. This awareness is not suspicion. It is protection. Do not silence it out of fear of appearing unloving. I speak through that awareness. When something feels wrong, pause. When someone consistently drains you, reflect. When words and actions do not align, believe the pattern, not the promise. You are not judging, you are observing. And observation will save you from unnecessary wounds. Still, I know the temptation you face. After being hurt, it is easy to swing to the other extreme, to close off completely, to distrust everyone, to keep your heart hidden behind walls so thick that nothing can reach you. Do not do this. Walls keep pain out, but they also keep love out. I did not heal you so you would isolate yourself. I healed you so you could love freely, with wisdom. Guard your heart, yes, but do not imprison it. There are people who will honor your boundaries, people who will listen as deeply as you do, people who will not rush you, use you, or pressure you, people who will bring peace rather than confusion, nourishment rather than exhaustion. They will recognize your value without demanding proof. They will respect your no as much as your yes. They will walk beside you, not lean on you to stand. Be patient until they arrive. Until then, remain rooted in me. Let me be the place where your heart rests fully open. Let me be the one who carries what others cannot. When disappointment threatens to close you off, bring it to me. When distrust begins to grow, lay it before me. I will teach you how to remain soft without being fragile. You are not becoming less loving. You are becoming more discerning. You are not withdrawing from the world. You are learning how to stand within it without losing yourself. This balance, this quiet strength, will protect you in the seasons ahead. And as you practice it, you will find that peace no longer depends on the behavior of others, but on your alignment with truth. Rest here, my beloved child. Let wisdom settle into your bones. Let clarity replace confusion. Let confidence grow, not arrogance, but quiet assurance. When you are ready, we will speak of the lonely road, the path of light that few choose, and why walking it often means being misunderstood. My beloved child, there will come a moment, perhaps many moments, when you will realize that you no longer fit where you once belonged. Not because you became better than others, not because you became colder, but because you became truer. You have changed in ways that are difficult to explain to those who have not walked your path. Your silence is deeper now. Your choices are more intentional. You no longer rush to prove yourself. and you no longer bend simply to be accepted. And this will unsettle some people. When you stop reacting the way you used to, they will notice. When you no longer argue, no longer chase validation, no longer tolerate what once drained you, they will feel the shift. Some will interpret your growth as distance. Others will call it pride. Some will say you have become different, as though that is something to be ashamed of. Let them speak. You were never meant to remain who you were. Growth always creates distance from old habits, old patterns, old versions of yourself, and sometimes from people who were comfortable with who you used to be. When you no longer respond to manipulation, manipulators feel exposed. When you no longer entertain chaos, those who thrive in it feel rejected. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. I know how tempting it is to blend in. There are moments when standing apart feels lonely, when it would be easier to laugh at what wounds you, to excuse what troubles your spirit, to remain silent when truth asks to be spoken. It would be easier to lower your standards, soften your convictions, and tell yourself that this is just how the world works. But you were not created to mirror the world. You were created to reflect my light within it. You have seen what happens when people choose convenience over integrity. You have witnessed how compromise slowly erodes the soul. You have felt the emptiness that follows choices made only to fit in or to avoid discomfort. You know better now. There will be times when you are surrounded by voices that celebrate what you cannot endorse. They will praise ambition without conscience, freedom without responsibility, confidence without humility. They will mock restraint and call it weakness. They will glorify excess and dismiss self-control as unnecessary. Do not be deceived. What the world applauds is not always what endures. You will be tempted to question yourself in those moments, to wonder if you are being too rigid, too sensitive, too serious. You will feel the pressure to adapt, to soften your convictions so you can belong again. But belonging that requires you to abandon truth is not belonging at all. I did not call you to be understood by everyone. I called you to be faithful. Walking in integrity often means walking alone, not always physically alone, but internally set apart. It means you will see things others overlook. You will feel tension where others feel comfort. You will hear silence where others hear applause. And that can be heavy. There will be days when you wish you could unsee what you now see. When ignorance feels easier than awareness. When it seems unfair that you must carry convictions others dismiss so easily. But remember this, my child. Light reveals. And once revealed, it cannot be unseen. You cannot return to what you have outgrown. You cannot pretend that truth does not matter. You cannot become smaller simply to make others comfortable. Doing so would fracture your soul, and I will not ask that of you. I know the loneliness this path can bring. You may find fewer people who truly understand you. Conversations may feel shallow where they once felt familiar. You may feel out of place in environments that once felt safe. You may notice a quiet distance growing between you and those who prefer not to reflect, not to question, not to grow. This is not rejection. It is alignment. As you walk this path, You will be misunderstood. Your silence will be mistaken for judgment. Your boundaries will be interpreted as coldness. Your restraint will be called fear. Let them misunderstand. You do not need to explain yourself to everyone. You do not need to defend your values to those committed to misunderstanding them. Your life will speak louder than your arguments ever could. Integrity does not shout. It stands. You are learning that peace is not found in agreement, but in alignment, not in being liked, but in being true. This realization is costly, but it is freeing. I know there are moments when you fear becoming isolated, when you worry that staying true to yourself will leave you with no one. But listen carefully. I never remove something without intention to replace it. The space created by your growth is not emptiness. It is invitation. Invitation for deeper connections, for relationships built on mutual respect rather than convenience, for conversations that nourish rather than drain. But these things take time. Until they arrive, you must learn to walk without needing constant affirmation, to trust your inner compass even when no one else follows it, to remain gentle in a world that rewards hardness. This is not easy. You will feel the pull to retaliate when mocked, to justify yourself when questioned, to harden when misunderstood. But I ask you to resist these impulses. Do not become like them. Do not trade compassion for cynicism. Do not trade humility for pride. Do not trade truth for acceptance. You are strongest when you remain yourself in environments that pressure you to change. Your restraint is not weakness. Your silence is not fear. Your kindness is not naivete. It is discipline. It is wisdom. It is strength under control. I see how you choose your words more carefully now, how you step back instead of reacting, how you listen before responding. These are not signs of distance. They are signs of maturity. You are becoming someone who cannot be easily provoked, easily manipulated, or easily pulled off course. This steadiness will serve you well in what lies ahead. And yes, there will be moments when you feel lonely, when the path narrows, when the noise fades, when it feels like you are walking ahead while others remain behind. In those moments, remember this: you are not alone because you walk differently. You walk differently because you are led. I walk with you on this path. I always have. Even when others turn away, even when understanding is scarce, even when your convictions cost you comfort, I remain. My presence does not depend on popularity. My guidance does not shift with opinion. You are safe to remain who you are. Let this chapter settle into your heart. Let it strengthen your spine. Let it quiet the urge to conform. When you are ready, we will speak of what comes next, the lonely road that leads not to loss, but to purpose, and how your light will begin to matter more than you ever imagined. My beloved child, listen to me now with your whole heart. You have come far, farther than you realize. There were moments along this journey when you thought you would not make it. Moments when the weight was too heavy, the silence too loud, the path too unclear. You questioned whether all the endurance was worth it, whether all the choosing of truth over ease had any meaning at all. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still capable of love. That alone is a testimony. You are not the same person you were when this journey began. Something within you has shifted, quietly, steadily, irreversibly. You no longer chase what once distracted you. You no longer beg for what once withheld itself from you. You no longer define yourself by the approval or rejection of others. You have learned who you are, and that knowledge is power. The world may never fully understand you, and that is all right. The world is not your judge. It is not your source. It is not your destination. You were not created to be explained away, categorized, or reduced to something convenient. You were created with intention. I know there were times you felt delayed, times you felt as though life was happening for others while you waited. You wondered if you were behind, if you had missed your moment, if the doors you hoped for would ever open. But hear me clearly now. Nothing in your life has been wasted. Not the tears, not the waiting, not the loneliness, not the fire, not the valley. Every step refined you, every delay protected you. Every closed door redirected you. I have been working not only around you, but within you, shaping your character, strengthening your discernment, deepening your capacity to carry what is coming. Yes, what is coming. Because this story does not end in survival. It leads into purpose. There is a reason you learned to walk without applause, a reason you learned to stand without constant reassurance, a reason you learned to remain gentle in a harsh world. These qualities are not accidental. They are preparation. You will encounter people who are where you once were, tired, confused, wounded, searching, and without effort. Without performance, without preaching, your presence will speak. They will feel safe near you. They will sense understanding in your silence. They will recognize hope in your steadiness. You will not need to convince them of anything. Your life will do that for you. You are becoming a light, not a loud one, not a blinding one, but a steady one, light that does not demand attention, yet cannot be ignored, light that guides rather than overwhelms, light that remains even when darkness tries to return. This is why you had to walk the path you did. Not everyone could carry this. I know there are still fears lingering in your heart, fears that you will be hurt again, that trusting again will cost you, that opening yourself to the future might reopen old wounds. But listen to me. You are not walking forward as the person you once were. You are walking forward with wisdom, boundaries, discernment, and strength that did not exist before. What once wounded you will not have the same power again. You are not fragile. You are fortified, and you are not alone. I go before you, preparing what you cannot yet see. I stand beside you, steadying what feels uncertain. I walk behind you, guarding what you have survived, and I dwell within you, reminding you who you are when the world tries to make you forget. You do not need to rush. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to fear being left behind. Timing unfolds naturally when trust replaces anxiety. There will be new doors, ones you did not force open. There will be new connections, ones that do not require you to shrink. There will be new purpose, one that aligns with who you have become, not who you pretended to be. And yes, there will still be challenges, but you will face them differently now, with calm instead of panic, with clarity instead of confusion, with faith instead of fear. You have learned that storms do not define you. They reveal you. My beloved child, take this truth with you. You are cherished. You are chosen. You are covered, not because you are perfect, but because you are mine. When the world tries to rush you, remain still. When voices grow loud, listen inward. When doubt whispers, return to what you know. I have never left you. I never will. Your story is still unfolding, but its foundation is secure. The chapters ahead are filled with meaning, connection, and beauty, earned not through ease, but through faithfulness. Go forward now, not with fear, but with quiet confidence. Go forward knowing that you are seen, known, and deeply loved. Go forward trusting that the best is not behind you. It is ahead, and I will be with you every step of the way. Amen.